in my boat.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Ryno. We are on mute. Sorry about that. What's up? Good evening. Capping off the holiday weekend with a Kings-Spurs matchup here in Sacramento. It's a split screen Sunday because you got the Niners going in Buffalo as well. We've got the entire night covered for you. If you're going back between the games, the Kings, 2 games under 500 as we sit, coming off of debatably their worst performance of the year. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Mike Brown ripped into the team. Good thing, though, today is a new day. The Kings get another crack at it. So get up in here. We'll talk about it. We got a full night with the pregame, halftime, and postgame right here on the channel. Let's kick it off.
Lights on the screen, hey, it's Grant and Ryan. We bleed purple, talking hoops, never lying. Sacramento Kings, we rise and we fall. If you don't like that, then you don't know ball. Jerry sitting with the stories of the game, spilling all the truth, driving legends insane. From the Cow Palace days to Arco's roar, this town's heart beats on the hardwood floor. If you don't like that, turn away now. Kings in our blood, we ride strong and proud. Running up the score, Kings never back down. If you don't like that, this ain't your town.
And welcome back in, Ryno in Sacktown with you, getting you ready for the Kings and the Spurs tonight from the G1C. Kings 6.5-point favorites. DeMar DeRozan practiced yesterday. That's good news. He looks to be a full go tonight without any minute restrictions per Coach Brown just a few minutes ago. Kevin Huerter, doubtful. He did not practice yesterday, so you can probably count on him not being there tonight. But as I said at the top, Mike Brown ripped this team after the game in Portland, as he should have. This was probably one of the more depressing, one of the more speechless, one of the more frustrating post-game shows that we've done in a while. Just there wasn't much you could really say about this team. They shot themselves in the foot. We're frustrated at times with coaching. We're frustrated with play. We've dealt with a ton of injuries. A team that, quite frankly, is underachieving at 9-11. Now you've got a San Antonio team who's already beat you one time this season, rolling into the Golden One Center with that guy, Chris Paul. I always bring it up. Chris Paul destroys this team when it comes to the assists. For whatever reason, Chris Paul is on that all-Kings killer team. The Kings search for answers tonight, and I know a lot of you are like, here we go again. I see it in the chat already. I'm ready to be disappointed, my buddy Cody, though I expect them to figure out a way to lose. And why wouldn't you? Self-inflicted wounds by this team. You come off what was a pretty big win in Minnesota, which really they were out of that one in the fourth quarter, and they make a big run at the end to come back into it. You roll into Thanksgiving, and then you roll into Portland like that, a team that's missing their best players. Mike Brown finally was not having any of it. Here was Coach Brown after the game.
Extremely disappointed in. I'm extremely disappointed in our guys' ability to mentally come into a game like this and lock in. We had 14 turnovers in the first half. and at least 3/4 of them were unforced. Just throwing the ball all over the place, dribbling it off our foot, real soft and careless with the basketball. To come on the road, no matter who's injured, who's not injured, and have 20 turnovers when 3/4 of them were probably unforced, is just unacceptable. Unacceptable. 20 turnovers for 24 points. Take it a step further. We talked about the whole 2 days, these guys. They want to hit the paint. They want to hit the paint. They want to hit the paint. We have to shift. We got to stay in front of the ball. And we need somebody to be able to guard the dribble drive. They were going past us almost every single play with zero resistance. We can't just think about getting out and scoring. They had 64 points in the paint. 64 points in the paint and shot 29% from the three. They didn't shoot enough threes. We kept telling our guys, shrink the floor, but it starts with guarding the frickin' ball. We have to have somebody that wants to guard the ball and not just get out and score an offense. 64 paint points, 19 second chance points. Those are two things we told them. Box out and shift to contain the dribble drive. Box out and shift to contain the dribble drive. And a telltale sign of this game tonight, there were 10 50-50 balls, 10 loose balls, 10 of them. We got one of them. And it came with less than 5 minutes to go.
So Mike continues on that same track and really lights into him. In the post game, was very hard on Coach Brown. I think it's been too soft. I feel like at times it's been laissez-faire, to put it nicely. But at the end of the day, this was a team that did it to themselves. Not at one point did they show the will to win in that one. And I think the bigger frustration about this was the fact that this team has been doing it infrequently this entire year. We saw another bad quarter from the second quarter on. It wasn't Kings basketball. It was terrible basketball, quite frankly. And it continued into practice. Mike Brown was not done. For those that did not catch the entire thing, Coach Brown still was on the guys.
It's the truth. It's if I wouldn't have said it publicly or said it to them, in my opinion, I know they felt it because, I mean, it's obvious.
It is obvious. It is definitely obvious. Let's go to the phones really quick. As I said, or as you know, I didn't say it. You're welcome to call at any time. We'll talk about what you guys talking about in the chat here in a few minutes. A lot of trade talks already. Joseph, welcome in tonight.
Hey, Ryan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear, bud.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Hopefully we can win tonight. We need one.
Completely agree. And more importantly, you need one on your home court, Joseph.
Right. Yeah, I haven't been to a game in a while, but I remember when I went like last year, the energy is always good. And when I watch on TV, the energy is always good too. But I don't know. We need to find a way to win at home for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. They've got a lot of games coming up in December at home, so they've got to take care of business. Jerry Reynolds has said forever, if you don't win 30 games at home, you're not going to be a top 6 seed in the West.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But to kind of get to the team, I was thinking about 3 things, right? If you look at a team, and if they're not winning, you can blame it on either coaching, the players not performing well, or you can blame it on the, I guess ownership or general management. Yeah. And I think it's a combination of all 3 right now. But if I were to put my finger on one, I think it would probably be general management, the roster construction, because before the season began, I wrote out like the depth chart, right? Like point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center,
Right.
every position, right? And even before the year began, Ryan, there was like, we didn't have a backup wing. Like there's not really a backup wing on the roster,
Yeah.
even before injuries, right? So even before the year, you were behind at a position that's very important, right? So you have DeRozan, but then you didn't have a backup wing. And I think that's a big issue and a big fault of the management, to not even address that issue before the year began. And I think it's showing right now because, injuries are going to happen no matter what. And there's probably like 8 or 9 playable guys even before the season began. And now you're at like 7, and then you get another injury, and then you're at 6. And thank God, like Keon really like developed into a good player. But without him, I'm not saying the Kings got lucky with Keon, but he wasn't a guy that like was drafted or traded for. So without him, you'd really be at like 5 or 6, without him developing.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Hey, Joseph, thanks for the call. Good stuff.
Thank you.
I want to
Have
hit
a good
some
one.
of that. Yeah, you as well. Yeah, it's a very good point. And none of us are in those meetings. We're not in Coach Brown's head. I think certainly to Joseph's point, we see Mike Brown, regardless of the injuries, trying to throw players against the wall to see what's going to stick. He did it against Portland the other night. Grant talks about this a lot, Joseph, and it's unfair to Devin Carter because he has not played a game in the NBA yet. We don't know how he is going to turn out. But Dalton Connect, if you talk about and take the best available away from it, because that is still debatable. It was a draft that was very subjective. You saw that in the way that teams picked. But if you look at position of need, Dalton Connect was the position of need. There was already rumblings that Sasha may not be coming back. And, where is this team with Dalton Connect? I don't know. I mean, maybe Dalton Connect doesn't get as many opportunities as he does in LA. Who knows? But at least it is another player at that position to where you are not scrambling to call up Jay Crowder, a guy, and Jay talked about this after practice. He really thought he was going to be picked up after that week that he spent with the Kings. He did not get picked up. And you got to scramble to bring Jay Crowder in. And I found this interesting, by the way. Jay was asked after practice, what are the guys? What's it like trying to get used to a new team, hit the ground running in the middle of the season, and especially hit the ground running when the team is playing so inconsistently? Jay picked up his teammates, said it's really great when you've got an organization around you, players around you, that are showing you at least the ropes in terms of the playbook and day-to-day stuff. But I found this interesting. Jay said this was one of the first things that the Kings wanted Jay Crowder to do, the players. Check this out.
Well, I just told him, we can't expect to win a road game with 20 turnovers. Let's be real with ourselves.
Oh, excuse me. That was wrong cut. This is the correct cut. This is what Jay said was the first thing asked of him by the players.
They want me to start talking right away, and I'm trying to fill them out first before I just give them the whole dosage of me, but they want me. They want me to my voice and want my presence, so I'm just trying to give it to them and still trying to learn each and every player, still trying to learn the playbook, still trying to learn the coaches, just still trying to learn, but I just want to still be myself, and I'm a leader, naturally born leader, and I love to win. I do whatever it takes to win. I'm not a selfish player. I'm a team first player, so I do anything to help my team win, and that's the message I want to rub off to the guys. I'm here to win. I have no agenda besides winning.
Isn't it interesting though? And maybe I'm just looking a little bit too into it. You've got DeMar DeRozan on this team. You've got De'Aaron Fox on this team. You have Sabonis on this team, and you need Jay Crowder to come in and talk? What? Maybe, again, looking too into it. I know him and Isaac developed a little bit of a friendship, and they stayed in contact after Jay's week here. But interesting to me. So, yes, I think it's a little bit of every area, to your point, Joseph, but roster construction certainly appears to be a little bit of a problem right now. Let's draft an injured 6'3" guard, even though we already had 6. Okay, so that's where I said let's set aside best available, because the Kings always have drafted, or traditionally when they draft well, the mindset has been best available player regardless of position. We don't know if Devin Carter is going to end up being the best available player at the time the Kings picked. We won't know for another 2, 3, 4 years, right? But imagine if Dalton Knecht ends up being the best available and it was the position of need. Don't disagree with you about the guard pick. There was more than a few of us scratching our heads about that. Lydia, what's up? Happy Sunday to you. Doubtful to play. No, I would be very surprised if you see Kevin Huerter in this one. Keon needs to score 10 to 12 points consistently as a starter. Maybe. Can't rely on Keon night in and night out. No, see, Keon's not the problem. Keon's shooting percentage, by the way, has been excellent. He has been one of the best from beyond the arc during this time of struggle. In fact, let me throw up really quick the stats for you guys. The last 10 games. Check this out. Let me get these going for you. Here's the other cog to me. I talked about this on the post-game show the other night. There's been too much Domantas Sabonis with his back to the hoop. That has never been Domas's game in Sacktown. And if his back is to the hoop, it's usually a quick move or he got the ball because somebody else was doubled. They're attempting to go into the post far too much, and it shows with the post-up statistics in the NBA. Domas's frequency or turnover frequency is second highest in the NBA in the post position. So when I say there's a little bit of blame to go around everywhere, that's what I kind of mean. So here's the stats over the last 10 games. Let me get back into a better screen. There you go. So the Kings are a negative 3.8 over the last 10 games. If we look at turnovers, so we're going to group it right there by turnovers. Sabonis averaging 4.6 a game, Fox 3.7. Too high for your best guys. Domas's turnovers, especially with the lower burn rate, is astounding because they haven't been takeaways. They've been giveaways, and Coach Brown talked about that. 13 of the turnovers in Portland were giveaways. We've been saying giveaways for a week and a half now on this channel. But let's go to three-point shooting. Let's categorize it there. So take away Orlando because he's only shot 1. Malik Monk, he was out for a while, so you have to take into account the attempts. He's at 48.1% over the last 10 games. Keon is your second best three-point shooter. Now, here's the names that bother you. Right here, Keegan Murray, 26.9%. Kevin Huerter, 18.9%. DeMar DeRozan, 10%. And yes, I realize DeMar did not play in some of these games. This is your problem right here. It's Keegan Murray. And I can only think that I can't help but think that he's going to get going. There is no way he's going to continue shooting at that percentage, but there's no way he's going to get going if you don't involve him more. So to me, Keon Ellis is not the problem offensively. It's getting Keegan more involved offensively. And I get that is a very ambiguous conversation. I've seen all the talks. Let's trade him. Let's do this. Let's get him out of town. It's almost like the Harrison Barnes effect. There's got to be a fall guy. To me, there is not one fall guy when you look at these numbers right here over the last 10 games. This team is so much better than what you are looking at over the last 10 games, where their record is 3-7. Just to give you a point of reference, their net rating right here, the 3.8, their net rating is a positive 0.3 for the season. Over this 10-game span, a negative 3.8. So it's not just one person. It is everybody. that is dealing with it right now. And you see it in the play. It's uninspired. And then you can go to the coaches. You can go across the board. Bottom line is the Kings need to bounce back tonight. And it's not just bounce back tonight. The Kings need to bounce back with a 5-game segment. They need to show that they can play consistently. And tonight, it is a very tough matchup as we talk about the Spurs coming into town. You've got a team that's been playing better basketball. They have not played since Wednesday. They lost to LA in that game. Sohan's not going to be playing tonight for the Spurs. Everybody else should be pretty well ready to go. Offensively, we know what the Spurs are. They are Victor Wembanyama. What did the Spurs do to the Kings in the first meeting? It was the 3-ball. Wemby got going from beyond the arc, and the rest was history. In fact, the game after Wemby played the Kings, he went off for a 50-burger. So he got going in that game. And in that game, the Kings had a brutal, remember, it was the second night of a back-to-back. That was a hard one for them. What did the Spurs do well? Let's look at it. The Spurs, their Achilles heel is pace. The Spurs do not like to play with pace. So we know the Kings want to play at a better pace. Can they do that a little bit better tonight? We will see. What the Spurs do well are the small things. Offensive rebounding, obviously 8th in the NBA. The Kings, I said it before the Portland game, they had to come out and win those hustle stats because that was the only way, and the 3-ball, including the 3-ball, that Portland might beat you. And that's exactly what happened. Mike Brown said it in that drop. The Kings only got one 50-50 ball, and it came in the last, I believe, 5 minutes of the game. 150-50 ball. That's what's going to happen tonight with the Spurs. You have to play a smart game. Remember the Kings, they challenged Wemby at the rim in the first meeting, a meeting in which they lost 96-116. So can the Kings not fall in love with the 3-ball, but play with pace? Because pace-wise, the Spurs, they don't want to do it. In fact, there is no mid-range game for this Spurs team, but what they are really good at is the hustle things. They're very good at turning you over. They are very good at getting out in transition and being effective, partially because Wemby can pull up from wherever the heck he wants. And some of those things have been the biggest holes for the Kings this year. So we'll continue to look at their stats in a minute. Let's go back to the phones really quick. Oh, they dropped off. All right. Well, if you want to call the show back, you are more than welcome to. As we continue to talk about the Spurs, talk about this matchup tonight, don't forget we've got full coverage of it for you. Jerry will be with us at halftime. Looking forward to that very much. And then after the game, Grant and I wrap it up. Hopefully we have better news and a beam tonight to be talking about with all of you. We'll be opening up the phones for you as well. So you can see what the Spurs do. I'm going to put their season stats up right here. I'll talk about their team stats. Some of the things that they don't do well when I talk about pace. They are 25th in the NBA. They give up the 5th most shots per game, I should say. So most teams that don't play with pace, the Kings who like to, that should play to the Kings' advantage. But then comes the turnovers. Can the Kings not dribble the ball off their foot? Can they make good decisions? And that's something that has been a trouble for them as of late. One thing the Spurs do well is they are very good at defending and not fouling, which is surprising because you look at some of the guys that are their core, they're younger guys. Yeah, you've got your Chris Paul, you've got your Harrison Barnes, who, by the way, Western Conference Player of the Week. What? Yeah, Western Conference Player of the Week. The first time the Suns or the Kings saw the Spurs, you just had them mixing back one of their main players into the mix. That was Devin Vassell. Vassell didn't have a massive game against the Kings. He was still getting back into the swing of things because he was on a minutes restriction. He's no longer on a minutes restriction, so you got to be really careful about how you play him. You got to be careful. He's their hot guy. But obviously, Wembanyama, what's your game plan going to be around him? You're not going to probably double. You're not going to want to run two people at him all game, but you do need to show him different looks. As we get to the Spurs, other stats, you can check those out Here's what they do as a team. It's the same thing that I'm looking at right now. So if anything jumps out to you, let me know. We'll talk about it. 2-point attempts. That is something that they do not like to do. That's why I said it. It's either at the rim or it's beyond the arc. And beyond the arc, they're 7th in the NBA in 3-pointers attempted, 19th in 3-point percentage. The Kings let them get going last game. In fact, the Spurs last game shot 47.8% from beyond the arc. Look at their season percentage right there. Their season percentage, 35%. You give up that much, it's bad. But back to the 2-point attempts. They're 26th in the NBA at 2-point attempts, meaning that the Kings have to defend without fouling, something that was a big part of Coach Brown's rant after the Trailblazers game. In fact, Coach Brown still talked about it, and he was not done going in on the team at practice. Here's Coach Brown again. If our drops want to work, give me 1 second. I don't know why that's not working. Coach Brown again.
Well, that part you gotta talk to players. I had heard that players were gonna have a meeting. I don't know if they had a meeting. You know, I never asked, and we as a staff weren't part of it if they did. But that's what the league's about. The league, there's highs, there's lows. Hopefully you can stay pretty even keeled and not get too high when things are going well. That helps you stay locked in and not get too low when things are going bad, so that you can be in the right frame of mind to go do what you need to do, meeting your standards, and get the win the next time you step on the floor.
Starting Malik Monk, unless you have injuries, and when I say injuries, I mean no De'Aaron Fox, is the worst idea. The worst idea for this franchise. Let me tell you why. You are wasting scoring. You are wasting talent. In fact, you have clashing styles of play on the court at the same time when you have Malik Monk in that starting lineup. What Malik brings to that second unit I shouldn't even say the second unit, the change of pace that Malik provides to the Kings' opponents, specifically with him and Sabonis playing together with the two-man game. The two-man game is something the first unit does not do. They do not play pick and roll. Hardly ever. Late in the shot clock, they'll do it. Sometimes they'll run the horns action where you've got 2 screeners at the top of the key. But the pick and roll game is reserved for Malik and Sabonis. You put him in the starting lineup, you are then taking away from De'Aaron Fox and or taking away from Monk's game. There's not enough basketball out there. Look at the starting lineup before with Kevin Huerter. Keegan Murray couldn't get a shot. So you think putting Malik Monk in the lineup is the end-all, be-all, the fix to the Kings' problems? It's absolutely not. You have nearly zero offense coming off of the bench. You have nobody. I get it, Dennis. Dude, I get it. Look, I get the all gas, no breaks thing. I get that when you're a team like last year, when you are ravaged by injuries. The second half of the season for the Kings, Malik Monk, before he got hurt, should have been starting. That was a team that should have been all gas, no break the second half of the season. Completely agree there, because regardless, they didn't have a second spurt coming off the bench. This year you do. Regardless of the bench being thin, Malik Monk is the only person on that bench that is a creator. And if you put that creator in the starting lineup, you've got a problem. That's why Mike Brown stayed away from it. Now, I'm happy to revisit it and have the conversation when you have guys that are out and hurt. Maybe that's the time, depending on the matchup, depending on the situation. But a regular thing, absolutely not. That would compound the Kings' problems. I can promise you that. And the analytics say it as well. So anyways, bringing you back in, it's the Kings, it's the Spurs tonight, getting you ready for action. Lots going on in the chat. Coach Brown, again, he was letting the guys have it after practice. He was none too happy.
There are like standards that we have. And if there's 10 50-50 balls on the bouncing on the ground, I don't care what game it is, game 1, game 50, game 30, game 82, you can't get 1 for 10. You can't have 13 completely unforced turnovers and think that that's okay. You know, the 19 second chance points, maybe that's going to happen every once in a while. Yeah, I don't know, but we still got to put bodies on bodies, and whether it's 1 game or 3 games in a row, I'm going to bring that up. And then the way we gave up dribble drives, it was not good at all. So it was the things that we saw during the game and then on film are just completely below our standard. And that's why, not even close, that's why they had to be addressed. That's why they will continue.
All right, he's doing it. He's going Malik Monk in the starting lineup. We will see how it works out. Very interesting. Very interesting. That tells you, though, that's really interesting. That is really interesting. And I'm going to go with Adam saying, well, I think we can all say we have a problem right now. For Mike Brown to pull that card tonight against the Spurs, hey, you know what? A lot of you have been asking for it. A lot of you have been asking for it, and it looks like Mike Brown is indeed starting Malik Monk tonight, if I am seeing this correct. Yep, Malik Monk in the starting lineup tonight. Your starting lineup: Fox, Monk, DeRozan, Murray, and Sabonis. All right, react to me. React to me, Kings fans. React to me. It's what Dennis wanted. Dennis gets his starting 5. I think it's a bad idea. And you're not going to have the answer to it, by the way. You're not going to have the answer after 1 game. So nobody come on this channel and say the season's changed. You got to have a sample size of this. But here's what I do like about it. This is what I really like about Malik Monk starting. Grant and I have talked about this at length. What's Mike Brown's recourse? How do you have a bite that goes along with the bark? Kind of Joseph's point about there not being a lot of depth on the bench. What can Mike Brown do? Hey, you're pulled out. Who are you going to put in for him? There's not anything you can do. So this is a little bit of bite behind the bark. All right. All right. O'Brien, disagree. Fox and Monk starting is great. There is no clash. What's the clash is also, there is no clash. What is the clash is also starting DeRozan. When this type of play slows down the game, he should be replacing Monk. Sorry, your thing's moving so back. Monk, 6th position. We'll see. Interesting. Brown's job on the line has no choice but to start Monk. Running out of options. I don't think his job's on the line, guys. They're only 9 and 11. There's so much basketball left. But if there were, look, here's the thing. This is a move that Kings fans, that analysts, that many people that pay attention to basketball, they have wanted to see. They've been clamoring to see this. We know Malik Monk has always wanted to start. Okay. So the fact that it's on the table and you're doing it, regardless of Herder's injury, that tells me it's like, okay, this is kind of for me. And these are my first initial thoughts as it's coming to us live. It's kind of like, all right, we need to see if this doesn't work, where's this team at? That's kind of to me what I feel from it. All right. It's finally time to pull out the big gun. This is our nuke. that nuke doesn't fire, then uh-oh. But if it's something that the Kings are going to do, again, I want to see it for a bigger sample size. Don't change it around. Let's see what it does. Now, what's that do for Mike Brown's rotation? That's the big question. And can you play the two together and keep minutes down? I mean, the bottom line is Monk's on the court at the end of the game, most games when he's healthy. So we know that they can play together, but you don't have a change of pace. Now, with this change, does there come a change stylistically? How are the Kings? And I think actually the DHO to me, and tell me what you think, the DHO to me has been played out. We just keep kicking around this DHO. I think the DHO, we've got to change it up. I think the Kings, that's part of the big problem here. Too often, you don't have people cutting. You've got 4 around the perimeter and 1 inside. You got to start phasing out the DHO, and you've got to do more pick and roll. You got to do more pick and roll. And with this lineup on the court, I better see a lot more pick and roll. You got to see a lot more pick and roll. Gabriel, it's a desperate move. Wish I was at the game to see it. Lyle, streaky at best. Coach is going to kill the players by overplaying them, but he may not have any choice. Hey, it was a pissed off Mike Brown. Again, let me replay this clip for you.
There are like standards that we have. And if there's 10 50-50 balls on the bouncing on the ground, I don't care what game it is, game 1, game 50, game 30, game 82, you can't get 1 for 10. You can't have 13 completely unforced turnovers and think that that's okay. You know, the 19 second chance points, maybe that's going to happen every once in a while. Yeah, I don't know, but we still got to put bodies on bodies, and whether it's 1 game or 3 games in a row, I'm going to bring that up. And then the way we gave up dribble drives, it was not good at all. So it was the things that we saw during the game and then on film are just completely below our standard. And that's why, not even close, that's why they had to be addressed. That's why they will continue.
They will continue to be addressed is what he was going to say. All right. De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. So here's my 2 questions with this. Again, and you guys heard my initial take on it. It's been my take all along. I don't think with the way the Kings have played up until this point, it's feasible. It's sustainable. But here's the questions. And I'll leave you with this. Can this somehow get Keegan Murray better looks? That's the first thing. And does this now institute more pick and roll into the Kings starting lineup? If it does both of those things, this could be a great move. But it's not just a player into there. You also need to inject Malik's style, a little bit of his style into there. The biggest problem this team has is this team waits and feels the game out. They let the game come to them instead of grabbing the game by the neck and taking it over. They let teams feel them out instead of making teams feel them. Well, now you have literally just gone all in. You are all in right now. If you are Mike Brown, you just pushed your chips to the table tonight because your 5 best players on this roster are starting. So I am excited to see what's going to happen. It's the Kings. It's the Spurs. Mike Brown going all in tonight, putting Malik Monk into the starting lineup. Lydia, we have a banged up bench. Relax, Ryan. I'm excited. I want to see if those things change. I'm all for it. If those things change, it's a strong backcourt with the 2 of them. Absolutely. Adam, we need to see what we've got now and decide if we're going to go all in this season. There you go. It's an all-in move. It's what it is. That is what it is. Just don't see an impact of Monk starts or not. Will still play the end of games, and the impact on the game is the same. Well, not necessarily. That's where I say light the beam, Mike. If it changes the style of basketball the starters play, then it's a significant change. If it changes the style, if it's less DHO and more pick and roll, sign me the F up, because that's what this team needs. Who's going to come off the bench? You're going to have Isaac. You're going to have Jay Crowder. You're probably going to have, well, obviously Keon, some mixture of Colby Jones, Jordan McLaughlin. What's coach going to do with Wemby tonight? You're probably going to you can't put Alex Len on him. That's the problem. Maybe you can, but Wemby doesn't like to play inside. You don't want Alex Len on the perimeter. Joe, if we don't make the playoffs, do we lose our draft choice to Atlanta and we end up with no first round pick? I'm not sure, Joe. I got to think about that. Or I've got to look it up. AB, desperate. Brown can make running changes during the game. Relax all. No, Furious Wolf. It's, again, I just said it 5 minutes ago. Malik's on the court at the end of the games. Most games, if he's healthy. It's the statement. This is the move, Furious Wolf, that he's absolutely refused to do for 2.5 seasons. And he's pulling it tonight against San Antonio. I think it's really interesting. How are you going to stagger? And here's the other point. So my 3 points: does it get Keegan better looks? Is there more pick and roll in lieu of DHO? That will make me so happy, and that will make this team so much better, by the way. And number 3, what do the rotations look like? And not the players coming off the bench, but what are the actual rotations? How is Mike Brown going to stagger that with Foxy, Monk, et cetera, et cetera? Because some of these guys usually have set breaks. You're trying to get combinations together, a combination of certain starters and certain bench guys, like the Monk-Sabonis connection. That is a huge thing. So how is he going to stagger that? Because the biggest thing that you want with Malik Monk on the court with the starters is you want Malik Monk time with Domantas Sabonis. And you want some of that probably with Foxy off of the court. So very interesting move. I can tell you this, Jerry and Grant are definitely going to have plenty to talk about here at the half. We have not really talked a ton about keys. This whole thing has come off the rails because Malik Monk is starting tonight. All right. Very cool. Here it is. It's the move many people have been asking for. So Jerry will give his thoughts on the first 24 minutes at the intermission, and post game we'll break it all down. All right. This one just got a hell of a lot more interesting. Because here's the other thing. When I'm getting excited about this, I'm getting excited because I'm not just thinking about tonight in the basketball. I'm thinking about the post game, the questions to Coach Brown, like, Coach, why'd you pull the trigger now? What was the thought behind it now compared to the last 2 years? What was the thought when De'Aaron Fox was out? You didn't, all of that. Why now? So this whole thing, I want to see what the shift is, and change is not always bad. So should be exciting. Kings-Spurs coming up tonight. The Kings 2-1 against Wemby so far in his career. Can the Kings get a big one? They need it. We didn't look at the Western Conference. Let's throw that up really quick before we get out of here. Here's a quick look at the West. Kings not in the picture. As you see, San Antonio sitting in the 10 seed coming into tonight. So this is a big one. Kings got to get this one. Start the month of December off right, because you have many home games this month. I think there is a lot of room you can make up in this Western Conference. I'm looking at you, Lakers. You've got a negative net rating, and you play the Lakers 3 times. Count them, 3 times this month. All right, we're going to get you out to the G1C. Don't forget, come back here at halftime. We would love to have you. And a huge thanks, by the way. I didn't even, Brian, my bad. This thing came off the rails with Malik news. My bad. Make sure that you go check out our friends at Bennett's West Side Grill and all of their locations, 3 and all in the greater Sacramento area. Huge thanks to them for sponsoring today's Kings-Spurs pregame show. We are back at the half with Jerry and Grant. 24 minutes of basketball in front of you. Malik Monk in the starting lineup for the Sacramento Kings. We'll see how it goes. See you at halftime. So long.